It's been a minute. So let's do a little bit of an update for the college basketball offseason because we've had some pretty significant stay-go decisions be made. A few of them tonight. As I'm recording this, we have about 25 hours that these guys can still make their decisions. But I wanted to go ahead and jump on here because there's some rosters I kind of want to talk about. There's a couple moves that I would say were expected, but they may mean some things for certain schools and stuff. So a few of the names, I have them grouped up. So staying in the NBA draft officially, there were two big ones announced today. Christian Anderson and Allen Graves, both of these were expected. Christian Anderson, absolute bucket. We kind of know as college basketball fans, we know what we're getting with Christian Anderson. You're getting a fun basketball player that single-handedly beats Duke in the Garden. That's essentially what you're getting with Christian Anderson. Unbelievable player. He's probably going to get drafted, I would say, just outside of the lottery, maybe 15 to 20 range. But I think there's a chance he maybe gets picked up in the lottery. Like, he's going to be a really, really good player wherever he goes. He's a legit starting guard right away, in my opinion. This is a different scenario where it's not a one and done. He's a two and done, but he ended up being, towards the end of his freshman year, you started to see like, oh, well, maybe there's a little something here. And then his sophomore year, he takes a huge leap, one of the best guards in the country. And now he goes on, and obviously I think this was expected for a while, but it's not great news for Texas Tech as they're kind of in a weird season where the NIL, it seems like in Lubbock from the outside looking in, it seems like the NIL is certainly on the football side of things. That'd be the best way of putting it. Not great there. I know you've got to pay JT Toppin to keep him over for an extra year while he's recovering and everything because he's that good a player. Couldn't really afford to lose him. That probably holds a little bit of the money and puts you in a tough spot. Allen Graves from Santa Clara stays in the draft. Very expected, it seemed like, from people with the NBA, people with college. But he had entered the portal, and it seemed like LSU was maybe the team because he was from Louisiana. Seemed like LSU, a roster that has basically me and you watching this as their roster right now. They have they've got some guys that are the age that they could retire from their jobs. It seems like they've got legit 2020 NBA draft picks that are playing. There's going to be a ton of waivers needing filled out. There's going to be a ton of eligibility problems and stuff, and it's going to be a wild world, but I think that's where Will Wade will probably thrive, and they're just going all in on the hate train because they have Kim Mulkey, they've got Lane Kiffin, and now they've got Will Wade. They are just absolutely thriving with it. And there for a while, they just had Mohamed Diabate. Now they've got an interesting core of guys, but they have a really fun name team. I will say that. If you go look and you've got Abdi Bashir, you've got Mohamed Diabate, you've got a lot of foreign guys. They've kind of filled out. So, unfortunately, they're out of the Allen Graves sweepstakes, which opens up more money that they would have had to spend on him. It wasn't just going to be LSU for him, though. There was tons of schools that would have been in the mix for him. Maybe not some of the top dogs, but I think maybe Duke was one team that people thought maybe would throw their hat in the ring on him just to kind of test it out. But it seemed like LSU was maybe the spot, so that's why I spent some time talking about them. But Allen Graves goes to the draft and keeps his name in, and he'll probably end up being a really solid role player for a legit team. I think he's going to get picked in the 20s, maybe even late teens at the highest, but he's going to be good at the next level. He can kind of do it all. The famous play that I think a lot of people will remember him for is the one that they ended up losing against Kentucky in the NCAA tournament where he hits the three to give them the lead. To go up three late, he's a do-it-all guy. I mean, he was the I want to say he was the newcomer of the year in the WCC. He was like the freshman of the year. I want to say he was on the all-league teams. Like he was racking up awards his freshman year at Santa Clara, and he was exceptional out there. So it's understandable. Both these guys were very expected to stay in the draft. I'll talk about some other guys that will probably end up keeping their name in, so it's not just those two when it's all said and done. But first, I want to talk about some guys that are returning to college. Flory Badunga. This was as expected gets. It's almost like people forgot that his name was technically in the draft because of how obvious it was that he was going to come back. But what he brings for Louisville is unbelievable athleticism and one of the best defensive guys that you can find. Now, like I said, this whole portal season, To me, the top of this class wasn't exceptional out of the portal class. I think John Blackwell and Milan Momcilovic are probably my top guys in the class, and then it'd be Flory. But he's going to be really good. He's going to bring something to Louisville that they didn't have last year that cost them some games. It's going to be an anchor to keep down low and somebody that's going to hold it down in the front court. I also haven't had a chance to jump on and talk about who they now have as their backup center, which is going to be awesome. So he's going to be, Flory is going to be maybe the defensive player of the year in the country next year, and he's going to be awesome for them. That is huge. Now, for their roster overall, people kind of fluctuate. Some people hate their roster. Some people love their roster. I'm kind of in the middle. It's a different type of roster for Pat Kelsey, but Pat Kelsey went and immediately, as soon as that portal opened, went and filled a need and filled a role that they did not have last year. Obviously, they paid well, but that's the type of guy you go pay, and you make sure you get because you haven't had that, and it's cost you some things. Now, the retention side of things, technically London Johnson, Adrian Woolley will be back, though. I'm high on Adrian Woolley. The rest of the roster is it's up there. It's up in the air, and we'll see what happens there. But Flory Bidunga, it's huge. He's an absolute freak human when it comes to athleticism and strength and what he can bring to the game, and he's going to be awesome for Louisville. But he announces his return to college, and it's honestly crazy that last year and this year that the NBA is not. I know that he doesn't fit because he can't, his offensive game is extremely limited, but just what he can bring defensively, it just kind of shocks me that there's not a team that would take the gamble on him, because he's got an insane frame that he can just use. And I know that the recent weeks, it's kind of been well, he might be as small as 6'7" as a center. So obviously if that's the case, it's not great, but he has a great wingspan, and he's going to be really, really good for him. Obinna Akezi Jr., he'll be the backup 5-star freshman. He's going to have some growing pains, but he has a more expanded offensive game than what Flory does. So when Flory's not playing, which won't be a ton, I imagine it's more of a 28 minutes for Flory and 12 for Obinna, and it'll be something like that. But when Obinna is in there, right away he may struggle a little bit, but physically his body is ready for college. He'll be able to step out and shoot it a little bit. He can dunk everything. It's going to be interesting to see, because one of the rumors that I had heard about him, that from people that had watched him a whole lot more than I did when he was in high school, is that he would struggle when games would kind of get the pace picking up and stuff, and that's how Pat Kelsey's going to want to play. So that's going to be one of the things to watch. But Jackson Shelstad, Adrian Woolley, Carter Knox, Alvaro Figueres, Flory Bidunga, Deshane Montgomery, London Johnson, Obinna Akezi Jr., that's going to be kind of their core. It's a pretty strong core. Not a great offensive core, but you're going to be able to sit down and guard somebody, and you can kind of tell what their mindset was going into this offseason on what their plans were and what they were going to try to fill. So I think it's a roster that's going to be pretty good. I don't know if they're going to be I don't know if for the money that they spent, it should be national championship good, and you shouldn't be able to debate it one way or another. And I would say it's debatable. That would be my takeaway. So Flory Bidunga is going to be awesome. That's the biggest takeaway from this. He comes back to school. He's going to be really good for Louisville. Down I-64, going a little bit east, Lexington, Kentucky. Malachi Moreno announces his return to Kentucky. He comes back to Lexington. Going to be really good. I think that is a thing that everybody would agree on. He's going to be really good next year. I am from the state of Kentucky. I've heard and watched this man through some years. And the one thing that the national media doesn't realize is the steps that he took year after year throughout high school and growing up, that he continued to grow and grow and grow and become increasingly better each year. Leaving his freshman year, like when he was coming into Kentucky this time last year, the team was Brandon Garrison is going to play probably 30 minutes. Malachi Moreno will maybe play 10, but once Jaden Quaintance gets back, it's going to be Jaden Quaintance plays 30 minutes, 35 minutes. Brandon Garrison will play the rest. Malachi Moreno, you will get to learn bench. That's kind of what it was, because Malachi Moreno's not going to be ready. That was kind of the thing. He wasn't necessarily ready physically at times, but the NBA did kind of talk to him about, like, They loved the way that he was able to go about the Felix Akparas and the Ruben Chinulus of the world. Like, the way that he was able to go against the super physical guys, he was able to bring it, but he wasn't necessarily dominant year-round, where he would bring it every single game. So he's going to need to be able to step out and shoot the three a little bit. He's also going to need to be able to bring the physicality night in and night out and add some muscle and all of that to his game. I think that's going to happen his sophomore year. I think he's a two-and-done type of guy. He's going to be here 2 years, and then he's going to go, and he'll be really good. But Kentucky would have been cooked if it wasn't for Malachi coming back. And for me, I didn't think that he was actually going to go for a while. And then it felt like day by day, week by week, it kept getting closer. And I was like, well, maybe he might end up going. Like, he's going to get drafted. He was getting where he was projected in the low 20s by multiple different teams. So it got interesting there for a little bit. But in the end, he ends up coming back. And this is a Kentucky team that, to me, right now, I would say is a between 25 and 30 team to me. Now, if they get Milan Momcilovic, who I'll talk about here in a little bit, I think that team is a top 18 team. A top 20, I would say, but like a top 18 team. I don't know if they get past like 12 to me, but what he would bring and what he would fill would be exceptional. But Zoom Diallo, Alex Wilkins, that backcourt's going to be a lot of fun. At the bare minimum, Alex Wilkins a good catch and shoot guard, so now he'll be able to play a little bit more off ball. I think they're going to pair well with each other. I think they're going to be awesome. And then Cam Williams is technically the one stepping up into the role if they don't get Milan. I'm imagining he's going to be really good. Throughout the year, he continued to get better. He'll end up being really good for Kentucky. Usman Njai, overseas guy. Those guys are all up and down. He played in one of the better leagues overseas. I think he'll translate pretty well. Justin McBride will be the backup four. He can stretch it. He can shoot it. He can dribble it. He can move really, really well for a power forward of his size and his frame and stuff. So I think he's going to be awesome. Braden Hawthorne, redshirt freshman from last year, is going to be really good. And then that's about what the main core will be. Frank Kepnang is technically the backup center, so he will end up playing some minutes. Jerron Morton is going to be he's a local kid that went to Morehead State, then Washington State, and then now he's coming back home to play. He's going to be kind of an 8th, 9th man, somewhere in that range. Trent Noah, been around the program for a little bit. He will also play as well. And that's about it for the core, but there's a Milan Momcilovic-sized hole waiting for that team. But Malachi Moreno coming back, he's going to be awesome, and I think he's going to have an exceptional year for Kentucky. Matt Abel ends up coming back to North Carolina, and I would have been a little bit worried if it wasn't for him coming back. I think Maximo Adams would have had to take a huge step forward and would have been hoisted into a role that maybe he could end up filling right away, but maybe not. I was a huge fan of this roster until Henry Vesar left. I honestly, maybe it was my optimism just as a college basketball fan that was excited to see a new era of North Carolina basketball. I thought Henry Vesar was going to come back. He didn't. Seyon Keita, we'll see what happens there. He's going to be really, really good. It's just when. That's kind of my worry. They will not have the easiest schedule in the world for non-conference. Playing Kentucky, I think it'll be December 19th. I don't know if Seyon Keita is going to be it right away. I don't know if he's going to be that dude that you're hoping that he reaches right away. But outside of that, they're going to be just fine across the board. And when you're talking about the starting lineup there, so you've got Neoclis Abdalis and Terrence Brown as your backcourt. That's a really fun, dynamic backcourt that can do a lot of different things and do them extremely well. Matt Abel's going to be able to bring shooting and bring some scoring capabilities on the wing spot. I think he's going to be awesome for him. Jaron Stevenson, a retention guy that had some really good moments last year for North Carolina, transferring over from Alabama. He's going into a senior year now. I think he's going to be really, really good as their four. Outside of that, it's kind of where you're like, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Some of these bench guys, you don't know a whole lot about them as casual, or not casual. Well, I guess casual recruiting following, with transfers and freshmen and stuff. If you're not completely in the weeds on it, some of these guys you're not going to necessarily know what they will be. Maximo Adams, Isaiah Dennis, Jaden Young, Malloy Smith, Cade Bennerman. Not a crazy good group, but if you're sitting there and you like this group with Henry Vasar, to me is like, all right, this group is going to be nasty. It's going to be a fun backcourt, and there's a chance that Keita ends up being as good as the best big in all of basketball next year. Will he reach that? We'll see. And it's going to be interesting. Michael Malone is one heck of a ball coach. That there's no doubting that. You don't win an NBA championship if you're not a great ball coach, but will he be able to kind of make these guys mesh and make it work in year one as the Tar Heels head coach? We will see. But Matt Abel returning is a great start to that, because there was a legit world where he ended up staying in the draft, and North Carolina's in a rough spot if they have a gap there. John Blackwell announces he's coming back, and Duke will probably be – it'll be Duke, or the next team I talk about will be my number one team in the country next year, because Duke is absolutely loaded. Caden Boozer, there towards the end of the year, ended up figuring it out a ton, and he's going to be a good point guard for him next year. Caleb Foster's obviously ran some point quite a bit. John Blackwell's going to have it in his hands a lot, though. Like John Blackwell, I felt like there was more of a chance of that he was staying in than a lot of people thought, just because I know he's older, but like he's just a really, really good guard, and he's going to lead this team in scoring next year. He's going to be an exceptional player. So getting him back is massive, because to me, like retaining him, well, not retaining because he didn't play last year, but like getting him to come back out of the NBA draft and stuff, it's like you just filled a role that could have been filled perfectly fine by Caleb Foster, but you filled it with a guy that is going to be on an All-American team, I feel like, at the end of the year. Like, I feel like this is going to be another Duke team that's going to be top like 7 all year to me. Caden Boozer, John Blackwell, Dame Sarr, Cam Williams, Patrick Gamba is what I would assume the starting lineup is going to be, and that starting lineup is unbelievable. They've got an insanely talented bench. I've seen people talk about would their bench beat certain teams, and probably. John Blackwell coming back you can't put it into words how big it is for this Duke team, because like I said, if you fill it with Caleb Foster, it's not bad. You're still in a pretty good spot, but with John Blackwell, the ceiling of the team is taken to a whole new level, where he's going to be kind of a star. Where if you look in the last few years of John Shire, you go, all right, so Cooper Flagg, and then it was kind of all around him, even though guys played super well with him, and he didn't necessarily like demand the ball. It was the Cooper Flagg show. Last year it was the Cam Boozer show, and similarly, like they didn't demand the ball, but like everything was kind of around him still at that point. So your star this year is John Blackwell. If you don't have the star, then you're in a different scenario, and you got to kind of make things work and see that there's a whole different world that you work with when you don't have John Blackwell. But he comes back. That's all that matters. There's no more sweating it at all if you're a Duke fan, and they're going to be pretty dang good next year. Like I said, they will be at the worst preseason 2 for me. So Duke is going to be scary. I mentioned their starters. Caleb Foster's going to be back. I'm excited for that one. Deron Rippey, to me, is in the class, I would say, to me, out of what I've seen, and I am nowhere near a talent evaluator. I'll just be honest. I am not. But to me, the class is Tyron Stokes, Deron Rippey at the top, those two. Then I would say it's probably like Jordan Smith that is kind of in his own tier, and then there's another level that's a drop-off. These guys down here, they can reach a exceptional high, but do I see it happening? No. Deron Rippey is in that top group to me. Like, he's not super big, but he is an incredible, shifty, quick guard that's going to be able to get things done, and you've got him technically as your third option, which is incredible. Drew Sharnowski's going to be awesome for him. Bryson Howard, 5-star freshman coming in. He's going to be really good. Other than that, like there's the Meyer kid that's coming in. Sebastian Wilkins will be there. Joaquin Bunche. That's going to be fun. Just because once he's playing and playing well, then there's going to be a lot of people find out about him just because of his name. But they're going to be really deep. They're going to have like a legit, like insane, like 9 to me. They're absolutely loaded. There's a world where you could see maybe platoons at some point, and this is the first team that I feel like you could genuinely see that since the 2014-2015 Kentucky. So it's a pretty fun squad. Ruben Chinyelu announces he's coming back. This is the team that I was saying in my ranking that I put out not too long ago. I had Duke 1, Florida 2. The more I look at Florida, I'm like, well, you know what? And also that Florida, when I did that ranking, that's a Florida without Denzel Aberdeen, because I was like, there's no way they're going to do that. But now I'm starting to believe that maybe he will get some eligibility and he'll get one more year, just because the NCAA just, they don't do what makes sense a lot of the time, and I don't think he should get an extra year, but it seems like he's going to, just off vibes. But Boogie Flan, Denzel Aberdeen, Tommy Houck, Alex Gahn, and Ruben Chinua, that's 3 bigs right there that won a national championship for you a couple years ago. Denzel Aberdeen also won a championship for you a couple years ago. Urban Clapshaw was also on the team when you won a championship a couple years ago. Unbelievable squad. They've got a couple overseas guys that are coming in that are going to be really good. They've got like length out of those guys. They're going to have Isaiah Brown, AJ Brown, CJ Ingram, I think are all going to take steps forward this year. I'm excited about those guys. But that starting group is up there with the best in the country. They had the best front court in America last year. Okay, never mind. Second best front court in the country last year. Michigan had the best. But this group is just completely running it back again. It's unbelievable. So, with Chinua back, you get one of the best rebounders in the country and one of the best defensive players in the country, with Tommy Houck, who took a huge step forward this past year, who's probably going to be one of the highest paid players in the sport, and then Alex Condon. Obviously, he didn't necessarily meet what the preseason expectations were that were placed on him, but he ended up having a pretty dang good year, and he's still a big-time threat. So that front court and that length is going to be crazy. All 3 of them running their senior campaign together. So they're going to be a lot of fun. The still deciding crew. I'll just do this, and I'll make a prediction on what they do. Malik Thomas, I think he'll end up staying in the draft. Just because I keep checking all these different mock drafts and stuff, and it seems like he's going to be in a range where he'll basically get a guaranteed team to select him. He's in a pretty good spot, though, because if he comes back to Arkansas, I feel like there's a spot for him, in a spot that like would make sense. So I think he comes back. Amari Allen, I think he will come back to Alabama. Now, Malik Thomas, I think he'll stay in. Amari Allen, I think he comes back. Tunde Yesufu, I think he stays in. That one feels like a terrible decision to me. I feel like he'd get like maybe $7 million. Like UCLA was the team that was talked about whenever he first hit the portal on that last night. Tunde is like, he's a dude that I think you could see get like $6.5–7 million. It just doesn't make sense for him to stay in to me, but I think he'll end up staying in. Tyler Tanner, I think, will come back. He's going to demand a lot of money, and not even really demand. I think he's just going to be worth a lot of money, and Vanderbilt's going to pay it, and you get to be an absolute legend in the city that you grew up in, going to Brentwood Academy, and you should be a Nashville guy. So he's going to be really, really good, too, because he took a huge step forward from his freshman to sophomore year. He's going to be one of the best guards in the sport next year. Tyler Tanner, I think, will come back. I would say all these, I'm to the point where I think I'd be surprised with the other side of things. Like if they don't do, like if Malik Thomas, I think he would probably be the one I'd say I'm the least surprised by if he ends up coming back. Like I can see him kind of 50-50 or whatever. But Amari Allen, I think he's definitely back. Tunde, I think he's definitely gone. Tyler, I think he's definitely back. Koa Pete, I think he's probably gone just because the next guy, Milan Momcilovic, apparently Arizona's going after him. Like I didn't think Koa Pete was gone the entire time until Arizona entered the Milan sweepstakes, so I was like, oh, well, they've now got a wing spot that's open or a forward spot that's open. So I don't really understand his decision to go, though, because he's like the size that he'd be able to dominate college, but he's not like long enough to be able to fit into the NBA without a freakish athleticism, which he has an athleticism, but he also can't stretch the floor. So, like, I don't really understand his reasoning of going, but you know what? I mean, those guys that make the decisions to go and make all those decisions for these guys, they know a whole lot more about it than I do. So, who knows? The last guy, Milan Momcilovic, this is the guy that it seems like the most intel has been put out about throughout this entire process or whatever, even though, ironically enough, he hasn't actually talked to schools, but the agents and all these schools are doing all the talking and stuff. But Milan, it seems like he will come back to college, but where is the huge question? He's going to be the best shooter in the sport next year. He was the best shooter in the country this year. To me, there's a lot of things that kind of go into this. From reports that people have put out, he's not going to just go to the highest bidder because there's a lot of schools that can just offer him a lot of money. It's going to matter where he fits. Now, there's two different scenarios I can see that fit him the most. Arizona and Kentucky. Kentucky can definitely offer much more money than Arizona could. But like I said, it's not a bidding war. Or he'd consider Louisville or, someone of that caliber. St. John's would also make some sense to me. There's some reasons why I think maybe St. John's doesn't make sense, but Jeff Goodman reported today that it's like St. John's, Kentucky neck and neck. Arizona's definitely going to be in the mix a little bit. I also think there's a chance that he can consider going back to Iowa State. Now, there's a few different worlds here, but like I said, he's got there's less than 24 hours by the time this gets uploaded. There's less than 24 hours for him to pick if he's staying in the draft or going back. Many people believe it's going to be 3 days and he'll be committed to a school. Apparently, as people have reported, Kentucky's talked to him twice. He's talked to other schools a couple times. Kentucky, to me, makes the most sense. He will get a ton of money. Dude will not be missing meals. Mark Pope can give the pitch of Kobe Brea, which was the best shooter in the sport a couple years ago. Transfers to Kentucky, ends up getting drafted after not being projected to get even sniffed by a draft board. And he ends up getting drafted 41st, goes to the Suns, and has had a decent pro career. He's still not where he's going overseas and back and forth. You can give him that pitch. Now, there's other pitches that can be given. Where he would fit in a co-Pete role, you've got a ton around you that are going to be defensive weapons around you. They bring in Derek Dixon. There's going to be a lot of fun things about Arizona that are also pretty tempting. I feel like it's got to be Arizona or Kentucky. That's just me. That is me with no intel. I'm just context clues. Louisville they've filled what his role would be already. Now, obviously, he's better than what the guys are that they have, but they're filled. So, do you really want to anger the guys that are in the locker room that you've already promised things to? St. John's, he would fit, and he would fill a role, and you would get to play for a Hall of Fame coach. But I just don't know, for a guy like Milan that's trying to get drafted and stuff, I just don't know if St. John's is the place that you want to go. I know that St. John's is now in the CBS Sports Classic. Or no, they were in the CBS Sports Classic last year. Now Kansas taking their spot. But to me, St. John's branding isn't near what Kentucky and Arizona are right now. That's just, the Big East is awesome. UConn's branding is a lot bigger and stuff. St. John's just doesn't do it for me from that perspective. So I feel like at the end of the day, Milan ends up at Kentucky. That's where it just makes the most sense. Like I said earlier, Cam Williams is technically in that role right now. If he moves to the sixth man, Braden Hawthorne's your seventh man or something. Justin McBride, seventh man. Whatever they end up doing, there's a Milan-sized hole that he could fill really, really well and go to a team that will be shooting the ball. He'll have playmakers around him. He has a good big man in Malachi Moreno that just announced he's coming back. I just think it makes a lot of sense for him to end up in Lexington and be a Kentucky Wildcat. But like I said, there's 24 hours-ish. As I'm recording this, it's currently 11:31. Just over 24 hours, and these decisions have to be made. They don't have to be public because we have seen years past, guys will technically make their decision at night, and then we'll find out about it midday next day, and we're like, what the heck just happened? Why did you not have to announce it? But we'll see what happens. A lot of very, very impactful decisions, though. So comment below what you think some of these guys are going to do. Like I said, Malik Thomas to me is 50-50. So comment what you think he's going to end up doing. Obviously, with him and a lot of these other guys, you really can't go wrong. Some of these guys, I just don't understand why they're keeping their name in, but I think they will end up doing it. Also, comment where you think Milan Momcilovic ends up next year as the best shooter in the sport. Will probably be finding a new home, assuming that he comes back to college. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you for tuning in. Like I had said at the beginning, it's been a minute. It had been a few weeks since I had done something, so this is an off-season update. Yeah, I'll try to do more of these throughout the offseason if there's different updates and stuff like that, and some reaction videos and stuff will definitely be coming. So comment, subscribe. It's all greatly appreciated. Peace.